Hello, hello. Um, Warm welcome to Self-Love Sunday chat. Let's give Facebook a few moments to show this live and for everyone to find us. And I'll just check on the phone again whether I'm actually live. Yes, it seems that it's working. Okay. Perfect. So if you are here, just say hi or just give me a thumb up so that I know that everything is working well and you can see and hear me. Oh, hi, Mare. Good to see you here. Welcome everybody. So it's very difficult, of course, to say like happy Sunday. Hi, Beata. Today. Hi Teresa, hi Jane. Very difficult to say like happy Sunday today as we all like live in the huge shadows, yes, of this outrageous war that is happening in Ukraine. And I'm sure like each of us is deeply saddened with what's going on and with all the suffering and pain that it brings for so many people. I decided to talk about anxiety and fear today before it all started, and now it seems like such a good choice. Yes, I hear from my one-on-one clients and other people I work with that anxiety and fear is what this situation triggers for so many of us as well. Hi Hansa, hi Rebecca. Great to have you with us today. So I have also decided to host another self-love retreat probably towards the end of the month. So maybe we'll go for spring equinox around 21st of March, because I believe that it is really essential for all of us right now to stay as strong, as resilient as we can. Of course, there are things like that we can do to help, whether it is, some kind of material help or donation, or whether it's just lighting a candle, praying or holding a space. But it is also very important for us to mind ourselves well as we go through all this, because it's so easy to let ourselves spiral down into fear, into helplessness, into despair, and that doesn't help anybody. So I think taking some time to go inward again, to reconnect to our hearts, to reconnect to our roots, to stay really grounded and stay deeply rooted in love is what can help us, what can help our loved ones, and what can help the world in general right now. So, and we will come back to this at the end of this chat today, yes, that actually we all have the choice whether we live from love or from fear. And this is a choice that matters not only in big crisis situations, but also in our small little everyday choices. So before we dive into anxiety and fear, like how are you? How are you coping with what's going on in the world? Do you feel affected by it, and how are you minding yourself through this? So if you can let us know in the comments just a word or two, how are things going on for you in this way or in this area. And feel scared, yes, of course, yes. And I think like for us who who come from Poland, yes, it's also very close to our country, very close to our families back in Poland, and it kind of hooks into a whole bunch of transgenerational trauma. Yes, so it's even more difficult. Yes, shocked, of course. Yes, lots of soothing, gentle breaths. Yes, and we will talk about the breath today because this is our biggest ally at times like this, of course. And Teresa says, feel so sad for all that is going on for ordinary, innocent people. Yes, of course, that's where our heart goes to all the time. Sadness and grief. Yes. So there's plenty of intense emotions. And Rebecca says, absolutely sad for Ukrainians and praying for them. Yeah, we all do. Yes, of course. So, yes, plenty of very intense emotions. And I think it's really, really essential for us to be able to stay with these emotions and to process them so they do not overflood us and we do not get lost in them completely, because then we can't help ourselves and we can't help anybody as well. So so that's a very, very important skill. So anxiety and fear is, of course, like a huge topic, and it's anxiety comes like in all different, levels of intensity. And as we talk today, it's very important to remember also that if this is something that stops you from functioning normally in life, if this feels like too much, the first thing always is to get support and help. So if this is the anxiety or fear gets really intense, never fall victim, to the belief that you should be able to cope with that on your own. This is always a situation to get help, to talk to your GP, to find a counselor, to get all the support that you need. What we are talking about here is things that you can do on your own that will help you to gain more freedom, to feel more strong, to find more peace in your life and very much inside. But if the situation gets out of control, please be sure to get support. So let's start with, there are of course like many different ways that you can think about anxiety, fear, and put them in different categories. But I want to mention 3 categories that I think might help us to understand what's going on with us and a bit why. And then, we are not so much at the mercy of our automatic reactions, but we can stay in charge. So there are 3 main kinds of anxiety. The first one is the instinctive anxiety, and this is just biological mechanism. So this is what how your body responds in reaction to danger or threat to your life. So if you approach the high cliff, for example, yes, then you get this reaction in your body straight away. When somebody threats you with violence, yes, that's a biologically predetermined mechanism. That is what we need to have in order to be as safe in life as possible. So this is healthy, and we need this mechanism. It helps us to fight, to run away, to freeze sometimes and do nothing, to find the the best way to bring ourselves back to safety as quickly as possible. So that's one thing. Then another kind, a big one, is traumatic anxiety. And this is connected, of course, to all the traumas that we've been through life, all the adverse circumstances that left a trace in our body and in our nervous system, all the toxic relationships. So sometimes when we think about trauma, we think about huge events, yes? like sexual abuse, or like even emotional abuse, like war, like bereavement at a very sensitive period in your life. But trauma is actually any situation that was too much for your nervous system to process. So on the outside, it might have been nothing. People might have noticed nothing. But for you, maybe you at that moment were very vulnerable. Maybe you were a child and you didn't have enough internal or external support or resources to process the experience, and that's why it like left a trace. It was imprinted in your nervous system and in your body very much. So then you live with a certain sensitivity or vulnerability inside, and when something happens in you or around you that even vaguely, even remotely resembles this difficult past experience, then your nervous system responds not only to what's happening here and now, but to the danger and threat that was present in the past. And this can be very intense. And we all know about PTSD, yes, post-traumatic stress disorder, when it has like a very intense forms, and it really makes it difficult for us to live like normal life. But it can be also very, very subtle. And we all have places like that, places of this sensitivity, this vulnerability, not processed from the past, and they so often run us into trouble. So, for example, if you experienced abandonment as a child, then in all of your adult relationships, you might expect to experience something similar again. And that has huge consequences, because maybe you are not able to commit fully to a relationship. Maybe you have problems with jealousy. Maybe you're not available to get really close and intimate with your partner. Maybe you choose partners who are emotionally unavailable. All these can be ways of coping with this sensitive and vulnerable place inside that is so scared of being abandoned again. And for me personally, my father, like when I was small, my father used to give me a lot of silent treatment. So he didn't speak to me for weeks sometimes. So when I was an adult, I was so sensitive to, of course, like my partners, but even like my friends, people at work. If somebody like didn't call me, didn't get in touch in a period of time, I would get all wind up thinking that, oh God, I must have done something wrong, I must have said something wrong, and they are not talking to me. And that wasn't an adequate reaction to what was going on around me. That was a reaction to what was a very traumatic experience for me in the past. So I'm sure you are aware of your own vulnerabilities and sensitivities like that. If there is anything that you can share or want to share with us in the comments. Yes, Jane says that she can totally relate to that. I think, yes, I think we all can. And it's so important for us to be aware of these vulnerable places inside, because they run us into trouble just because we don't know what's going on. The reaction when it comes in the moment seems real. The emotions are always real, but they sometimes are not true, in the sense that they are not from here and now. They are just some repercussions from the past. I even used to hate any silence because of that. Yes, of course. And then, yeah, the reaction is kind of overgeneralized, yes, and it goes into just being in silence. Exactly. Hansa can relate to this too. When people don't respond, I think it's because of me. Yes, but in reality, yeah, sometimes, it has nothing at all to do with you, but you always take it on board and think that is something that you did wrong, and that creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. So if there are places like this, if there are those vulnerable wounds from the past, it is always therapy that is the best place to address it. Teresa can totally relate, and COVID and not being able to control events reminded me of being out of control as a child, so triggered PTSD. Yes, of course. And I think COVID was one of the situations that did this to so many people, because like being in control is one of our deepest needs. So if we have any experience of trauma from the past, trauma of course triggers this huge fear of being out of control, because that's what we were at that time. So so both COVID and the situation like this with the world's instability and the war happening, all of this can bring so much stuff for us to the surface. So just remember again that this is something that needs to be worked through, that needs to be addressed, that you can kind of heal these vulnerable places, and then you need support to do this, because first of all, it might be very difficult to figure out on your own what's really the main cause, and then also it's not good, and it might be very painful to revisit places from the past on your own without somebody holding the space for you. So this is also something that it's so worth to get support with. And Jane says, I know it can be really tough to experience, but I am doing my best as I'm healing to realize that these are all triggers to help me release. Yes. Yeah, of course, if you learn how to work with that, that can be actually a huge blessing, and push you forward towards healing and towards full, happy and meaningful life. Great. And yes, and remember, whenever you need to get support. It's just a much easier journey when you have somebody who can walk with you. All right, and the third kind of anxiety that is probably most common and causes us like most trouble, and this is what we call cognitive anxiety. So cognitive anxiety is just the anxiety that your mind creates, and it is all the stories that your mind keeps making up, usually about the future. And then we repeat these stories over and over again, and we kind of start to believe in them, and they create a lot of fear, a lot of uneasiness, a lot of anxiety in our lives. And this, of course, can be connected to the instinctive anxiety. So if you have, for example, a fear of heights, and then you go on a plane, you might start to imagine all the things that might go wrong. You might remember all the stories that you've read about plane crashes, all the movies that you've watched about it. And then it all gains wind up and grows. The fear grows bigger and bigger. And but sometimes it doesn't seem to be connected with anything. And of course, it can be connected with the past as well. Yes. So all these traumas or adverse experiences from the past can also feed the stories that we keep creating in our minds. But sometimes it's really difficult to pinpoint what the source is, and it feels like it's just our pattern, the way we learned how to respond to the world, and very automatically go into what if this, what if that, and that can create a lot of anxiety as well. And there is this famous quote from a French writer, Michel de Montaigne, who said, my life was filled with terrible misfortune, most of which never happened. And many of us, at least at times, kind of live like that. And there's even a study that was conducted by a Cornwall University, and over a very long period of time. And it turned out that 85% of what we worry about never happens, and the remaining 15% that do happen, we are much, much better able to cope with that than we expected. So, that kind of says everything, doesn't it? So, and again, this can be something very intense that we are really aware of, but it also can be very sneaky or like tricky, yes, that we live with this constant sense of uneasiness, this, feeling of just subtle restlessness or agitation that is like an undercurrent. So, and we are very used to it, so we don't even pay much attention to it, but still it stops us from living fully, from taking risks, from being really available in our relationships, from, living up to our full potential. And it like secretly drains all of our energy and joy of life, and of course mental well-being and physical well-being as a result, always as well. So that's very important to be aware of as well. So does that sound familiar? And I know we talked about it last week, about all the stories and how they stop us from loving ourselves, but of course they stop us from so many different things as well. So before we dive into what can help, let's just say, let me just tell you about two things that never help. So the first one is running away, hiding, trying to get rid of, or trying to distract yourself from your fear. This is what we so often very instinctively do because it is uncomfortable. Yes, it's not a nice emotion to experience, even on physical level. So we kind of start to live outside of ourselves, yes? And then we spend hours watching TV, surfing through internet. We eat tons of food, yes, just to try not to feel it so much. But that always leaves us disconnected from ourselves and disconnected from other people in our life, disconnected from the world in general. So this is basically a road to nowhere. And then the other thing that never works is feeding your fear. And this is what we also have a tendency to go into. We tend to indulge sometimes in all of these stories that our mind is telling us. And just give me yes if you experience this at least a few times in your life. I think like we all do, but it's so good to know that it's not only me, that other people, have the same, that when we get anxious about something, then we would go over these stories, over worst case scenarios, over and over again. Yes, perfect. And that's what's very, very important right now as well. Yes, because this is happening with watching news as well. The same as it was with COVID, the same with this war that is happening right now. Yes, we tend to watch too much. And of course, we are all deeply saddened. We all want to know what's going on. We all want to, keep this solidarity, yes, and keep this place and hold this space for all that is happening. But watching news over and over again and exposing yourself to all the, terrifying videos that are there on social media or on TV is not helping. It's not helping you. It's not helping people who are suffering there. It's just winding the fear up. So it's very, very important to catch yourself when you're doing this and trying not to feed the fear. And instead, as we will talk about in a second, feed the love. You always have the choice to feed the fear or to feed the love. Yes, Rebecca says sporadically. Yes, that's what I do right now. Very sporadically, like once a day, just to be aware of what's going on. Yes. And Angie says like she stopped watching TV since 2017. That's great choice. I totally agree. I don't have TV. I have like a TV set, so we can watch a movie, but it's not connected to any TV as such. So the only news that I would be exposed to, I would read something online. Watch but don't attach. Yeah, that's another thing. Although sometimes when you watch something, it's not possible not to attach. Like we very instinctively and sometimes very deeply respond, especially to very horrible things that we can see on the screen. So the reaction is automatic. So it's very important to be careful about that right now. So let's talk a moment about 3 things that you can do to help yourself manage anxiety and fear in a much better way. When we relive pain, is there a chemical reason why our body and mind actually likes it? Yes, of course, yes. So every emotional reaction is connected with chemical reactions in your body. So there are hormones, there are neurotransmitters secreted in your system, and these actually are very addictive. So the same way as we can get addicted to some substance, we can get addicted to high levels of these chemicals circulating in our body. And when we get peaceful and nothing is happening, this actually can feel threatening to your system because you are not used to it. So you crave situations or triggers to get this response going again. So this is like an addiction, simply. About emotion, but these are something you can choose. Not fully understand, Angie, what you mean. It's about emotions, but these are something you can choose. Not really sure, Angie, what you mean. So if you can explain this more clearly to me, I can reply then. Emotional addiction, yes. Very interesting. Yeah, it's like a drug. Exactly. It works. It's the same mechanism. It is like a drug. Okay, so three things that I want to mention, and one thing that I want to practice a bit. So the first one is understanding and being really aware of what's going on in your nervous system. Because if you don't know what's going on with you, you are at the mercy of your emotions, of your physical reactions, yes, of all that is happening in your system. Yeah, okay, Mary, we can think about it. Yes, so maybe we can do like a Sunday chat about emotional addiction. That's very interesting. That's true. So if you don't know what's going on, yes, it's very easy for you to fall victim to a vicious circle. So let's say there is a trigger, something scares you, and this of course triggers emotion and thought, and both emotions and thought trigger physiological reactions in our body. And in terms of anxiety and stress, these are very uncomfortable reactions. Yes, it's shaking, it's blood is being pumped to your legs, to your hands. Your heart starts to beat very fast and intense. It's difficult sometimes to catch a breath. So these are very difficult physical sensations. If you don't know what's going on with you and why this is going on with you, these physical sensations, they create even more emotions and they create even more thoughts. Yes? And these emotions and these thoughts make the sensations in the body even more intense. So this is all like a snowball, growing, 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 until you have like a full-blown panic attack. And when I was like a young adult, like especially when my first child was born, I suffered with severe anxiety, and I used to have panic attacks. So I know what it feels like, and it happened to me like only once that it grew so much that my husband called the ambulance because I was sure I was dying. He was sure I was dying. And it was just fear, just the snowball of fear growing and growing and growing. So understanding, being aware what's going on, and then of course being able to bring balance back in is a life-saving skill. And there is one more vicious circle here. If you experience this fear or anxiety getting out of your control once or twice or three times, and it's a very difficult experience, then you kind of start to be afraid of getting afraid. There's like a fear of getting fearful. And that's like a road to nowhere, because then you really limit your life. You start to avoid all the possible triggers, and there are more and more limitations. And the more you withdraw and hide yourself, the more things become triggering for you. So again, this is a kind of a vicious circle, a kind of snowball that can grow with fear. And again, if anything like this is happening in your life, then it's time to get support, because it is much easier to cope when you get the right kind of support. And so the first one is to understand, and this is what we do a lot in the inner circle, right? Because we, like the last month, I think January was all about understanding the nervous system, and there are plenty of resources in our membership area if you're more interested in that. And then the next thing, and I'm sure you know what I'm going to talk about because we come back to this always, and it's breath. Breath is your biggest, your greatest ally in any kind of fear or anxiety. Okay, let's look what Angie's written here. When you react to anything, it will take that snapshot and go into the subconscious mind. This sets signals to the central nervous system to then hit the solar plexus panic attack, and they're simply because the subconscious mind is doing its job. Yes, exactly. Perfect. So thank you. Thank you very much for explaining it. Yes, it's like, yeah, that's what it, in very simple words, this is how it works. All right, so breath is such a brilliant tool because, first of all, it is a big part of your nervous system. So, I'm sure that when you have strong emotional reaction, your breath reacts straight away. So if you get frightened with something, yes, we tend to hold our breath. And when you get agitated or restless, your breath becomes very shallow and very quick. So it is so connected with what's happening in the system. And you can actually use this mechanism. If you train your breath, you can use this mechanism to calm the system as well. So if you learn how to breathe into your belly, and we will do a simple short exercise in a moment, how to breathe into your belly, how to slow down your breath. At all these moments when you get triggered, you actually can send the system a signal that all is well, that you are safe. And that calms all the other responses quite quickly. So that's one thing. And another thing is that breath is always happening here and now. So whenever your mind hijacks you for all these different, stories into the past or into the future, getting back to breath is getting back into here and now, into full presence. And I'll say a few words about that as well. But I want you to I want to show you like what diaphragm breathing looks like, because this is a skill that if you don't know it, just make sure to take a bit of time to learn this. This will be so much helpful for you, for your physical health, for your mental well-being, in all areas of your life, really. Especially we, like women, have tendency to breathe into here, and there is this pressure to keep your belly flat, so that we keep them flat, and then we breathe into here, just into the top parts of your lungs, which might leave your system with too little oxygen, like chronically on everyday basis, because most of the blood vessels are here, like on the bottom parts of your lungs, down here. But if you do not bring breath into here, they cannot like function properly. So your body gets like less oxygen that it actually needs. So what we want to do is we want to learn how to breathe into our bellies. And we can try this for now. But the best exercise is to lie down, bend your knees, put a book on your belly, and try to lift the book with each of your inhales. So you can imagine that you have like a balloon in your belly, and you try to blow it up with each of your inhales. So the hand is supposed to move up, to move outwards on the inhale, and then go back in on the exhale. So this looks something like this. And this is something that you can practice, that you can learn, and that your whole body and your heart will be really grateful for. And then in terms of anxiety, it's always worth remembering that when you're agitated, when you're in fear, when you're anxious, you do all the exercises where your exhale is longer than your inhale. So there are plenty of timers on YouTube where you can, for example, breathe counting to 4, and breathe out counting to 6. That's a great exercise. It is always your exhale, slow, long exhale, that helps to calm the system. Breathing into the belly and extending your exhale as much as possible. And we will do plenty of this on the retreat. And you can, in the inner circle, we have plenty of exercises as well for you to be able to actually master this, because this requires a bit of training so that then you can use it. It's ready for use at moments when there is something intense going on. Okay, and the third thing that is probably the most important of all of them, it kind of goes beyond all that we mentioned before, and this is presence. This is learning how to be really present in here and in now. And this is also this is probably the heart or the core of what we do in the inner circle, because that's the core of whatever I do with my clients, in the way I work, but also in the way I live. And it's not only understanding, but experiencing and feeling that you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your sensations even. You are much, much bigger than all of them. So you are not your fear and you are not your anxiety. And if you learn how to step back, how to sit back into what is beyond the surface, then you are always able to access deep inner peace, deep inner stillness, wisdom and joy. And this is a life-changing experience, because you stop being so totally lost in your emotions, in your thoughts, or in your sensations, and you start living from a very, very different space. And you can think about it as, clouds flowing through the sky, or waves on the ocean. So sometimes there are beautiful, fluffy, white clouds flowing through sky, and sometimes they are really stormy, dark, horrible and frightening clouds flowing through sky. But it doesn't impact on sky as such, does it? And the waves on the ocean, there are storms, yes, there are waves, there is all the turmoil on the surface. But if you learn how to go deeper under the surface, you will always find stillness and peace and just beingness there. And this beingness, this presence, is also love and compassion. And it's our life changes very dramatically, although very gently and very gradually usually, once we are able to start living from this place of love. There's a great psychiatrist, she's called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and there is a famous quote by her where she says that there are just two emotions. We just have two emotions. It's either love or fear. And that all the nice, pleasant emotions, they stem from love, whilst all the difficult and challenging emotions, they are just derivatives of fear. And the interesting thing is that they cannot exist in us at the same time. So, they are like opposites. When we are in fear, we cannot be in the place of love. But when we are in the place of love, there is no fear there, so to say. So I'm really curious how this resonates with you, whether that feels true, whether you've heard about it before. How does it land with you? I remember when I heard it for the first time, like it was very difficult to wrap my head around it, but at the same time, it was like a huge breakthrough to understand that we always have a choice. We can react from fear, or we can choose to respond from love to any life situation. And it doesn't have to be big crisis situations, because I think we also see this right now. It's enough to look at the president of Ukraine to see how he makes his choices from the place of love. And I think that's one of the things that is always like mind-blowing and so deeply touching when we think, when we look at such difficult and difficult to imagine even situations happening, that apart from all the pain and suffering, we can see so much love there. We can see so much courage, so much beautiful things, beautiful choices that people make in the face of extreme danger. Yes, love will always be here, of course, and and love is always available, even in this most horrific circumstances. So, but this is also for us in the little everyday choices that we make, very much in our relationships, yes, very much in how we are with our spouses, our partners, our children, our friends, people at work. We can always choose to react from fear or respond from love. And in order to be able to respond from love, we need to take a pause. Yes, we need to stop. We need to go beyond all of these reactive patterns, all of these turmoil that is happening on the surface, all of this, clouds that are dark and stormy, and learn how to dive deeper over and over again, how to dive deeper beneath into peace, into stillness, into love. So that is why I'm really so excited that I'll be hosting the self-love retreat again, because I believe it will be again a beautiful time for all of us to experience, to sense, to feel what it is like to go deeper, to dive deeper into what is beyond all that might be happening in the surface. And I'm sure you heard about the butterfly effect as well. You know, that small change in one place can cause really huge results in some other place. And this is, imagined and as this flapping of butterfly wings in one place can cause a typhoon in some other place. And this is what we also can do here. So for us to stay strong, to stay resilient, to stay deeply rooted in love, as the situation unfolds in the world, the way it unfolds, really matters. It matters for ourselves, but it also matters for our loved one. And in the big picture, it matters for the world in general. So I do hope you will join me for the retreat, and you can also always join us in the inner circle if you feel called to do so, and dive much deeper into this beautiful work that we are doing, and to get all the support you might need through this difficult time as well. And keep an eye on our Facebook group and on your inbox, and I will send the link to sign up for the retreat either tomorrow or on Tuesday. So thank you so much for being with me today. please, if you have any more questions, just post it in the comments. I'd be most happy to answer them, or any more comments. Let me know how it all lands with you. And yes, I noticed that some of you really want to talk about emotional addiction. So we will come back to that. And if you have any more wishes or ideas for what would be helpful to talk about on these Self-Love Sunday chats, be sure to let me know as well. So please mind yourself really well. Be gentle with yourself. Take good care of yourself. And I'll talk to you really soon. Thank you, and bye for now. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Rebecca. Bye, everyone.